All right. Hey guys, this is the Untitled.jpg podcast. Today I have Jess Karp. If you've known her, she is a YouTuber and she does amazing work, teaches amazing things. But let me have her explain it. Okay. All right, Jess, can you just introduce yourself? Tell us about yourself and what you're doing now?
Absolutely. Well, first, I'd like to say thank you so much for having me on here. I think it's
Of
really
course.
great when other artists bring other artists together. So, first off, thank you so much for having me. It's really awesome. And anytime, people can collaborate together and, magic happens, I think. So, first
Yeah,
off, thank
definitely
you.
for sure. Of
So,
course. I mean, it was an honor for you to be on here.
Awesome, thanks. So my name is Jess. Full name is Jessica Karpushin, and for short and sweet, I also go by Jess Karp. And that's how you guys may know me from all my social media platforms. So I am a mixed media illustrator and now a YouTuber. I share all of my sketchbooks, my artwork. I love creating videos that are really helpful for people that can also include all levels. So I always try to include some tips that people can grab from any level of art and organization and just tips to stay positive and motivated in their art.
That's awesome. So, what convinced you to pursue art so young? Like, was it something that you always knew that was going to be a career path for you?
Well, yes, I think that I was always drawing from a young age, and I think a lot of artists say that, they're always drawing, but I was actually pursuing dance professionally as well. So it was always like the
Oh,
leeway, do I go into art? Do I go into dance? And it was always like the performing arts aspect of it. So I think it was more of me going into the arts, dance and art. I was doing it professionally and also teaching it professionally. And I still do it as a hobby, but eventually I decided to leeway into pursuing art professionally, and I figured I can do dance on the side as a hobby.
yeah. So I actually noticed a lot of like movement in your drawings as well. So I always wondered what that
Yeah,
was because you
that's right.
you do draw like a lot
That's
of
good.
people dancing and that kind of movement. So it's good to
Yeah.
know now where that comes from.
Yeah, I actually love incorporating flow and movement into my pieces, and I've recently been doing like a lot of intuitive paintings, so I'm always just I guess when I get my music going in the studio, I get the flow going, and I guess that is very true. Maybe that does play a role in it. So,
Oh, for
absolutely.
sure. Yeah. As an outsider looking in, that's what I see, and it's really awesome.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so let's talk about college. So, where did you go and what was college like for you?
So, college was incredible. I absolutely loved art school. I went to the Fashion Institute of Technology, and fellow classmate, well, you were older than me, so you graduated before me.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah, I always thought you were in my grade for some reason.
no, yeah, I think I graduated after, but I first applied as a fine arts major and I did fine arts for 1 year in college. And then I saw a trip with a professor whose name was Cam Mack, who became later my professor in illustration. I went to a study abroad trip in Italy, and then I was a freshman in fine arts, and I went to Italy with all of the seniors. And everyone there was like, oh my goodness, you have to be in illustration. Oh my God, you have to apply for illustration. And I, at the time, had no idea the difference. And I just kind of applied
Right.
to the fashion, to FIT. And before that, I was in LaGuardia for art. And so I was kind of like art school into art school. And I just decided to go for fine arts. It ended up happening. And then I ended up switching into illustration. And that was, for me, the best decision. And I absolutely loved college. And I say that I am the person that I am because of the foundations and the skills and all of the just incredible things that happen in art school.
Yeah, seriously. Like, I think the reason I went straight to illustration was definitely because of my high school teacher. I went to a public school, but she had taken illustration in Pratt. So she
Mm-hmm.
told me what the differences were between fine
Mm-hmm.
arts and illustration,
Mm.
and I that's why I lean towards illustration because of the whole commercial aspect and actually making more
Right.
money that way.
Right. Right.
Because nothing to knock down fine arts. It's an amazing
No,
like
absolutely,
way to go.
absolutely. There's nothing. Nobody's knocking them down. It's just a different
Yeah,
path and a different structure to all the courses. And I'm actually really glad that I got
exactly.
a year in that, and then a year and 4 years in illustration. So
Exactly,
absolutely,
because with fine arts, it's just you have to be very dedicated to it because now you're mostly dealing with galleries and trying to get representation that way. Whereas
absolutely,
illustration, you can kind of branch out and do commercial work for anyone, you know,
of
and that's
course,
kind of
yes.
what drove me to that major.
Of course. And after being in both, I definitely saw more of kind of a strict structure in illustration, and rather in fine arts everything was very kind of, you were open to creating whatever, and there was no actual project that was
Right.
structured into more of like a job, is more of an illustration is how it was. And then in fine arts I felt like it was very how can I say this, it was very open, and which was also really
Yeah, it's just more
incredible.
freedom. Yeah, it's just a
Absolutely.
lot more freedom, and they let you do kind
Yep.
of whatever you wanted to express
Yep.
yourself.
Yep. Which then I think I ended up incorporating into illustration as well. So I think they should come hand in hand. They are the same, we're in the same art world, but is I guess the curriculum was definitely structured differently.
Yeah, so because you're mostly mixed media and you do digital work, I
Yeah,
feel like the fine arts kind of played into that in your illustration style. What do you think
absolutely.
that's
Yeah.
true? Yeah.
I I do prefer traditional over everything. Like I love, there's nothing that I can replace the feeling of having a paintbrush or a pencil and a paper. I love that feeling, but I also started to incorporate the skills into digital and starting to really learn those skills, because I do think it's important to know all the skills, which is what I also preach on my channel a lot, is try to expand your
Yeah.
skills and try to experiment and incorporate what you know into every aspect, into every artistic aspect basically.
Yeah, because it's definitely we're in a major or a career path that is we're constantly learning. It's not a place where we can stay stagnant because there's always something to
Absolutely.
learn, and
Always.
that's what
It's
one of my favorite things,
It's a forever
because
learning curve, and it's a forever journey to keep learning and keep feeding your brain new things, I think. And absolutely,
yeah.
really, really great. Yeah.
And one of the best things is when you could look back years before and you could just see how your style has changed over the years and gotten you to where you are now.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
That
now
is,
you have those videos on YouTube as well, and that's like kind of like your time capsule now that you could go back to and see, oh,
yeah.
that's how I used to do it, and yeah,
As I'm doing the videos and looking back already, I've been pursuing it consistently for about a year, almost, actually, almost a year. And I was doing YouTube for maybe 5 years now, 4 years now, but I was posting here and there, just making time lapse videos, nothing too consistent. And then once I started to now post consistently, I can see just even the change of the way I structure the videos, the change, the way that I even speak and the way that I present things. It's also a learning process for me, and I think that it really helps in the artistic aspect as well. So as long as when I'm keeping consistent, I feel like you are always learning and always improving. So having that as a time capsule absolutely is awesome. And it's really great to be able
yeah.
to reach everyone around the world.
So now let's go back into college. Do you look back and think what you could have done if you didn't go to college?
Whew, just flat out didn't go to college.
Yeah,
Um,
like you kind of figured it out on your own, and you wanted to just like you believe that you could do it without college, and like what if you
yeah,
started YouTube back then
yeah.
with the information you had then?
So if I were to think about coming out of high school, I already had an artistic uh, I had art school for from high school, so I did feel prepared in art sense of it. But I think that if I didn't go to school and didn't pursue college specifically, Oh boy, that sounds like, oh, thinking about that, I would not want to not go to college, but if I
Yeah.
were not to, if I were not to, I think that I would do everything I can to search school online somehow to get lessons and a structure online. So every time that I have that process and I'm able to stay consistently learning, I make sure that I find the information. So even if I didn't go to art school, I feel like I would search for books and resources online. And there are plenty of places and resources that you can grasp online. And I still do. And I like to do that even when I was in school, even if I had that structure in school. I was always trying to look at things that I can learn from the outside sources. So I guess if I didn't go to school, I would absolutely get as much as possible and try to feed my brain, like I said, with as many resources as possible from books and online resources and YouTube. So I don't know if I were to start, I guess I could start YouTube at that time, but I think I would be more focused in on learning and progressing myself and my skills. So I think that maybe I would do YouTube as an experimental process back then to maybe learn along with people around the world. So that would be my answer to that.
Yeah, it's a key thing to that whole thing was just discipline. Without discipline, I don't think there's a way to success if you're not going to go to college, because at least with college there's structure that you could follow to make sure that you succeed, as long as you take it with face value and you don't pursue it. But
Yep.
like you said, there's great resources now. I mean, people call YouTube like YouTube University, where they can learn all that they can. I mean, you're doing that for people now, and
Yeah,
places like
absolutely.
SVS Learn, Skillshare, and I even started using
Skillshare.
Domestika.
Yeah,
Um,
I heard about that one too.
yeah,
There's plenty
it
of
it's
resources now. It's all I think really going into virtual learning, and I think it's awesome. Virtual learning is great,
yeah.
and I'm very big for it. I do think that in person is also, irreplaceable, but if
Oh,
you
for
have
sure,
those
especially
resources,
when it comes to art.
yeah, you want to get that model in front of you. You want to have life drawing all the time, which is something that I'm big on, and just having the professor, you know, you can't replace an one-to-one interaction with anyone. So,
That's for sure. Which is very interesting to see during the pandemic, how a
yep,
lot of these colleges had to kind of shift into that virtual
yep,
learning, and
yep,
people having to learn on the spot,
yep.
that whole like learning curve. So, can we get more into how it was like studying in Italy, like studying abroad with art?
Sure, sure. It's probably one of my favorite topics. I love to talk about
Awesome.
studying abroad. So, when it comes to studying abroad, I was very nervous to go. It was probably my biggest fear. And the first trip that I went on, which was as a freshman, believe I was about 17, 18, was very different from when I went as a senior. I went as a second trip to Italy with my professor, and I went as an auditor. So I was sort of like, I guess, you go as a second time. And that experience was completely different because I had a different mindset. I think going in with mindset and just learning, and since I knew what to expect as well, since I had the first trip, which was full of everyday museum visits, seeing the things that we learned about in art history in person was just breathtaking. You know, when they say you see the artwork in person versus on a screen or in a book, although it's great and awesome, but seeing it in person and just being in that space and that atmosphere is just just left me speechless, honestly.
I bet,
But
yeah.
uh, studying abroad was great because I spent every day urban sketching. I love sketching from and painting from life. So I would always draw, and what I see, I would study from the masters of the Renaissance period. So it was great. And just being around artists who were there to do the same was, again, unbelievably the best experience that I had, to be very honest. And every day we would have a trip to a new place to see, and the food was incredible, the coffee was incredible. It was just a whole dream. If I can describe it in one word, it was a dream. So, very, very grateful to be able to travel and study in Italy because it is where the birth of all of the most exquisite pieces of art are. And I think that everyone, if they have a chance to, as soon as, we're in the middle of a pandemic, but if you were to ever have the chance to go, I definitely recommend it solemnly from the bottom of my heart.
That's I couldn't say it better myself. There's so many benefits to that. Are you planning maybe any future trips to any other areas for your urban sketching?
I would love to. I would, if, the dream would be to plan maybe a month or maybe a few months to just go to different places and just book a flight in the middle of, any just randomly and go and sketch. Perhaps I'd love to visit Switzerland and
Ooh,
just all of Europe, maybe Japan. I don't know. Everything sounds great. Any place that if I would have the chance to go, I think I would take it.
and there's companies like Moment that they do these photo trips with,
Oh
like,
yeah,
you can
moment.
just pay for the trip and then they do workshops all over the world. And I feel like that's what's
Oh,
missing for art. I think that'd be
right.
so cool to do, and like get a bunch of people that are eager to learn and travel with them doing the stuff you love and just drawing the world.
Yeah, maybe I can set that up one day.
Hey,
I,
there
I
you
would
go,
love
we got
to,
an idea.
yeah, I would love to set up, like, if I would go traveling, I would love to let all my fans know and say, hey guys, if you're in this area, like, maybe we can do a workshop. That would be great. One of my inspirations is James Gurney. He does
Oh yeah.
urban sketching. He loves, painting from life. So, uh, I think he used to do workshops and had a lot of people maybe sketching with him, but I would love to set that up myself as well. So that's a great idea. So thanks.
Yeah, it's a really good like opportunity to teach people over there, as well as just travel on the go and teach them.
Absolutely.
It's just
And
a
also
win-win in all aspects.
all aspects. And just being around everyone, when there's a group of people and they're passionate about art and just painting, it's just incredible to be all together and you're learning from each other. And also, if you're holding these workshops, I think you're learning yourself as well. So I think this is something that I
Oh yeah.
definitely would love to do.
Awesome. So let's talk about what was that one definitive moment that made you realize you can make a career out of art?
Ooh, one definitive moment. Let's see. So I wouldn't say that there was one definitive moment. I would say that there was an accumulation, snowball sort of effect of events that happened that made me realize and begin to really, really believe that you can make a career out of art. And at first, I was doing a lot of little commissions and paintings for people. So people would request a custom portrait or a custom painting, and that was actually really great cash flow and revenue coming in. So, but then, you have to pay the bills, and you always have to think about how can you really make a career as an artist. So I think that there was one time, I think there was two moments basically where I posted a video and it was a complete accident. And this is sort of also probably goes into how YouTube happened. I began sharing my sketchbook tours and I posted a video just shot with my iPhone, just a flip through of one of my recent sketchbooks that I finished. And I woke up to just a blown up phone. I think it actually completely just shut off because it was blowing up with all the emails coming in with all the notifications, and I thought was what's going on. So I ended up checking, and at that time I wasn't monetized. I wasn't making any money off of YouTube. I just posted a video to see how it would do. I think I was just sharing my work again. So once that happened, it blew up my subscribers to, I I think 20 or 30,000, it went up, and I was able to monetize immediately. And many people were telling me that YouTube, you can monetize with YouTube and you can make money off of YouTube. And at first, there's a lot of rumors going around that YouTubers don't make money and that you can't make that much money. It's just a few cents that come into your pocket, just like affiliate marketing, right? So when it came to that, I actually, I figured, why not try? We'll see how it goes. And I just shared my work, and at that time I was able to monetize, and a really great amount of revenue was coming in. And at that moment, I feel like I began to believe and really think that, oh yeah, okay, this is gonna work. So I think that this was a really good way for me to also, again, show my work, because we were also in the middle of a pandemic, and I actually ended up moving to another state. I lived in New York and then I moved into Miami, and I knew no one here. I started off fresh. I had left all my furniture and everything back in New York, and I started off fresh here. So I figured the best, quickest way to reach people is YouTube. I thought you can post and it reaches people from all around the world. And I'm very grateful to have all my awesome fans from every country always commenting, like shouting out their countries, which is great. So I think in that moment is when I thought I can really make a career out of art. But I also was not only focusing on YouTube, I was focusing on many different ways to make money as an artist. That's what I really recommend as well. I'm always looking at different ways that I can have a revenue stream. So a little bit here, a little bit there, and believing is number one, staying positive and really thinking that you are able to do it, and you are able to do it. So if you're ever doubting yourself, the first thing you have to do is believe that you can be who you want to be. And there's many people who make money, crazy money, off of things that you would not believe. So just number one is believing. And yeah, I think that was probably one of the first few moments that I really, really wanted to pursue art as a career.
So let's talk about your YouTube. Why'd you start one? Can you talk about how you got the idea to market yourself on the platform and then the timeline of when you started on there?
Okay, so YouTube wasn't something that I was actually passionate about. I had no idea that I was going into YouTube. Actually, I was just posting about 5 years ago. I just started posting time lapse videos, and I was just having my phone record an automatic time lapse, and then I would put some music behind it and upload it here and there. And I had about maybe 100 subscribers and, you know, 50 views per video. And after a while, I just decided, finishing art school and moving to another state, I figured I'd try to share more of my work because I had so much work accumulated. I have about 15 sketchbooks, and I wanted to start sharing it with just the world and uploading videos. So I tried to make a sketchbook tour, and I uploaded that about, let's see, 2020 July or June, and I wasn't monetized at the time. I didn't have, like I said, I didn't have a big following, but I just decided to continue sharing and trying to do it consistently. And I was told that you can actually make a good revenue stream off of YouTube, so I decided to continue and just try to see how it goes. So then I uploaded that video, and it really snowball effect everything. It was just insane. And after that, I ended up enjoying sharing things, and actually people contacted me saying that I've helped them get out of a rut, I've helped them get out of art block, anything that they were kind of like stuck on. I was inspiring them, and that was something that I was passionate about, is helping others. So that really worked in the greatest form, actually, coincidentally, but also hard work. But I think that when it came to YouTube, I started about 5 years ago, and then last year I started to do really, really consistent videos. So I've really tried to do one every single week to get on the algorithm's good side. And it's really hard to get on its good side, but once the algorithm is your friend, he's your friend forever. And I think that once that happened, it was really just about, titling things correctly and getting things getting videos to be long because usually YouTube favors the longer videos. There's a whole science to it, but I think that last year is the year that I started to really do it really consistently, and it's been awesome since. It's really, really, really stressful at times because there are deadlines you have to reach every week. And some weeks I, was posting every 2 weeks, but it's really, really been great.
So, how do you get the idea for a video every week?
Oh yeah, great question.
Yeah, because
So,
that's what I'm curious about.
uh, I think it's also really great that we can talk about these things because a lot of my fans comment these questions, and it's the little itty bitty things are what make everything. A lot of YouTubers, and I know after doing it myself, is very hard because number one, coming up with the idea. Number two, making the idea come to life yourself because I'm a one man show. I do everything myself. So I'm really glad that we can talk about it. But for me, I think that I do a brainstorm. I have a list of videos that I like to brainstorm ahead of time. Sometimes I also love reading the comments, and a lot of my fans suggest videos that they want to see. And I love trying to like help comments are really helpful because they also help me come up with some ideas, but you have to also kind of take it with a grain of salt because you have to make sure
Right.
you're putting out the correct videos that you want to also put out. It's really, really difficult to start just uploading all these videos, but I have to always think about like the flow of the videos as well. There's lots to think about. So brainstorming the idea, and I think that just the way that the time happens, sometimes the sketchbook tour happens, sometimes I'm also working on a project that I want to share with people. So it really depends on what I'm working on and the flow of all of that. So all a combination of all of that, I think.
Yeah, that's insane because like as a one man team, I feel
Oh
like
yeah.
it's hard to multitask and do an idea for a video, execute it, but then also work on commissions and other things. I
Oh
mean, you're
yeah.
even doing Patreon. So like
Oh
I just
yeah.
want to know
That's all
what
crazy.
yeah,
It,
like what's your time management like because it must be like so like strict.
yes. So Um, I'm very organized in general. I like to be, but sometimes things get so kind of like crammed in together, which is great. That's the way I work, and that's why I enjoy working. That sometimes I have to just like relax. But for me, and relaxing may usually mean laying down and sketching, which is
Yeah,
more
same
art.
same.
Just for artists, and if you guys are artists out there and listening, you know that there's this one thing you do that's meditative to drawing. So that's my just, we can talk about the, downtime next.
Yeah.
But I think that for me, time management really depends on prioritizing my days and structuring the days on, I guess, days and weeks on things that I need to get done. And especially with videos, uh, if you guys make videos, if you're a YouTuber as well, it takes hours and hours to edit. It takes hours and hours to film, and basically takes up the whole day. And a lot of people say, artists, you're not a 9 to 5 job, but you're actually working from 9 to 9 and
Yeah, it's like
nonstop
a
creating.
whole
But
day thing.
for
We
me,
have crazy
I can't,
hours.
when you're enjoying it and you love it, and at the end, the result and just the feedback that you receive just makes all of that, it's so minor at that point, but in the moment it feels super stressful and it's a lot, definitely. But for me, I think when I structure my days, I like to make sure I have everything written out so that I'm able to achieve those. It's kind of like little mini goals, and then I'm able to achieve them. And for me, staying motivated, I guess, comes from everyone and their warm comments and their warm responses, and seeing people, just some people say that I've changed their life, and that just makes my heart warm and makes me keep going. And truly, I know that I'm putting out a positive vibe, and that way I'm able to stay motivated and consistently creating. But then it also, I have to make time to really develop myself as an artist, because sometimes creating videos and creating work for public, I had a professor who always said you have to sometimes make time for yourself and just really experiment with your own work. So I think that I really started to make more time also for that, and just something that you don't show others, because a lot of people kind of want to see everything, And I think that it's also important as an artist to take a second, which comes down to the downtime where you just sketch with some music on by yourself without filming, which is really rare for me right now. And I really try to make some time where I'm not filming, I'm not thinking about social media, and just creating. So all of that combined gets crazy, but I manage it somehow, and it works for me. And I think that having, just focusing on my work and all of that, and just really dedicating all the time in the day for that is how I probably make it happen. So yeah.
Wow, like props to you, man, because that's so
Thank you so much.
insane.
Yeah, a
So
shout out to all of the
yeah,
also YouTubers, and you as well. Creating podcasts is a lot of time editing. So if you all the guys out there know that we spend lots of time on this, and it's very tedious, but it's all worth it.
yeah, like let's talk about the fact that we're artists and we have to become like a jack of all trades kind of, like
Oh
how we
yeah.
had to just straight up
Let's
learn
talk about
video.
that.
Yeah. So also let's talk about like what you're actually recording with, because I feel like a lot of people get a lot of people get caught up in gear and like, oh, I need the best of this, I need the best lighting, I need the best like recording device, all of this. But
Yeah,
you've
so
achieved a successful YouTube account with what exactly?
okay, so and Albert, I was speaking to Albert prior. We were, setting up the meeting, and I actually told him, you got a camera ready? I was like, yeah, I got my phone. He goes, your phone?
Yeah.
So believe it or not, guys, I shoot all of my YouTube videos, all of my content, all of my pictures on my iPhone. Yep, my iPhone. That's
Exactly. Yeah.
it.
Wow.
I recently just got the new microphone, which was a really great. If there's one thing you want to upgrade, I definitely think upgrading audio is very much key. And I had my mom was actually a singer, so she had this nice microphone, but it's pretty old, so I was using that for quite some time. And now I switched over to the Blue Yeti, I believe it's called, which I'm using now,
Yeah,
and I
that's what
love
I'm
it.
using
It's
now as
great,
well.
amazing microphone, really great for podcasts and really great for recording audio. So it's really user friendly as well. So love that. But my phone does all of my videos. I started off with the iPhone X, and then I recently won the iPhone 12 Pro Max, which they marketed to be super great for video. I ended up upgrading to that phone, and I think it's really awesome for video as well. But I think that I'm really excited to maybe try out a camera soon. I'd love to see the quality that I can even achieve with that, because I know it can get
Oh,
even
it's gonna
better.
be great. Yeah.
So that's the next step of the kind of journey that I want to try out, is to start. I just have such an awesome workflow with my phone that I know it sounds so funny, but I do record everything on my phone. I just have such a workflow that I'm nervous to switch over to a camera, although I know it's something that I'm going to do eventually. So soon
Yeah.
it's going to happen. Extra 4K video coming soon. Even though iPhones do
Yeah, they
record
shoot
4K.
4K. I mean, it's all like nitpicking. I mean, I didn't realize until now that you were recording with your phone.
Yeah, a
So
lot of people are
that
surprised. I
attests.
get a lot of
Yeah.
questions, but surprise secret is, guys, iPhone.
Yeah, it attests to the fact that a lot of these phones now are more than capable to do what you need. It's like
Absolutely.
to start up a YouTube or anything, even just
Absolutely.
filmmaking. You all you really need is the phone that you have on hand, the one camera that's always on you. That could
Mm-hmm.
make a crazy film. It's just all about your skill level and your enthusiasm to do what you want to do.
Yep, I really think it's great that you mentioned that, because a lot of people think they have to purchase all these, even art supplies. You can make something incredible with just a pencil and a paper. I always say that, or even a ballpoint pen.
Yeah.
I know there's ballpoint pen artists make crazy work. So I think that getting caught up in that is definitely something that happens to many people, but knowing, and I guess I'm proof that you can make great videos with your phone.
Yeah.
So, if you have something that you are, wanting to do, I think it's really great to just use what you have at hand. And, you can always upgrade at any time, and just getting the feel of it, getting started, if you're getting started, is, using what you have is definitely a great option. So, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. All of the gear does is just make things easier as you go along. But to start
absolutely.
off, always start with what you have already on hand.
There you go.
So
Awesome advice.
yeah, thank you. So let's talk about more of like how you were able to tap into that creative niche that you have right now of like teaching a lot of these artists all over the world. Like,
Yeah.
how was that
Wow.
feeling of tapping into that and like, and then I'll ask the next one. So answer that one first.
Okay. So I think that when it came to the niche, it's something that I was always searching for. I was like, okay, what can I do differently? What can I, and as every person, even with art style, or, it finds you. It's just what you begin to do, just naturally what feels natural to you. I was sharing a lot of my tips. I have a way that I think that I realized that I have a way of doing it that people were able to learn very easily, and it was very compatible with all levels. So just the way that I structured things and the way that I love to structure things was able to kind of find that niche. It found me. I think we found each other. It was like a we
Yeah,
found
just
each
kind of
other,
work
in my
together.
opinion. Yeah, so I think that posting my sketchbook tour, sharing my artwork, and then just sharing tips, like I really love sharing tips and things that will help everyone. And once I posted the video, it's titled 5 Ways to Fill Your Sketchbook. I always looked at videos on YouTube also to help me, but I noticed there wasn't any, ways to fill your sketchbook or ways to create that are designated specifically to improving your art skills. And that video ended up taking off to over 1 million views now, which, oh my God, is crazy.
Wow.
So as soon as I, really thought very, very diligently on the topic and thinking, what am I missing as someone who's looking at videos? I was really missing on ways that I can improve my skills. So I decided to make a video about that because I really had ideas on how you can improve, and just generally drawing from life and doodling, things like that really, really help. And they're so simple, but they're so true. And that video, actually, if you take a look at the comments, people just say the most incredible things. And for everyone who have helped, I'm very grateful, and thank you all for watching. And I think that it's really great to be able to do that. So I think when I started to really think about things that were missing and things that I can help with, providing content that was going to be helpful, but also effective and fun and very, to the point, is very, very
Yeah.
important as well. So yeah,
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
now I'm also tapping into little studio vlogs. A lot of people then, again, reading comments, want to see things that you do as an artist, things, little behind the scenes motions. So I guess the niche comes, we found each other, I guess I can say.
Yeah, I mean, it worked out that way. I think that works out with a lot of successful YouTubers as well. They kind of just
Yeah,
do what they love, and then
yeah,
that's when the community comes to them.
absolutely.
So let's talk also then about what was the feeling like when you got your first 100,000, and you're up to now like over 150,000 subscribers. That's worldwide. How does
Saying
that
that to
feel?
me, honestly, saying that to me, it's still surreal. It's really humbling, and I'm very grateful to have reached all of you guys around the world. This is awesome, like insane. Uh, for me, the feeling was two feelings. One, I was very nervous because then, you have to put out a certain standard, and you have to be A1 always, And unfortunately, in life there's like little waves. You can't always be A1. So you have to, you get nervous at first, but then I got very grateful, and I was very happy to have reached people, because I know that I'm sending out a positive message, one, and number two, I'm helping, and number three, creativity is so great. And even if you don't, you're not an artist, I think staying creative and happy drawing is, something that a message that I want to put out, and something that I was thinking about as a goal, like what message do I want to put out into the world as an artist and as a person and as a human. So I think that once that happened, and it's still growing every day, thankfully, it's really
Yeah.
awesome. The community grows, which helped a lot of things, social media wise. And I think it was really interesting to see how it grew so quickly also, which was, oh my goodness, insane. So yeah, I think just very heartwarming, very special, and I wish I can gather all the people in one room and just speak to them in person. I always think
Yeah.
about that, which is why I started a Patreon to do more specifically like Zoom classes where we can talk and sketch together, because I really love that interactive feel. That's like what I go for. I really really enjoy that. So when you're recording videos, you're recording to the my beautiful iPhone, but
Yeah.
in general, I wish I could hug each and every person, because that's just how I am. And so for me, it's a very, very special feeling. So shout out to all my fans, everybody. If, thank you so much for your support. And yeah, really, really, really grateful.
I'm sure they're just as thankful for you. So
Oh,
let's
thanks.
get into then how what because YouTube you have to make your own ideas for that, but now you also have Patreon. How did you come up with the idea to like structure that and like give out the benefits on that end?
So, as far as Patreon, I wasn't aware of it until I really, really started, and I ended up launching it on my birthday. I was like, why not? Let's launch a birthday. I wasn't too prepared,
Yeah,
but
I remember when you posted it, and I was like,
yeah.
this is gonna blow up.
Oh yeah, I was so nervous because I remember uploading it and I think I had like 5 people sign up that for like that week, and I was like, oh man, maybe this is not the right time. So I was really waiting for like 100,000 subscribers. I was really waiting for it to have a bigger community, even though I know people who launched it at 20 or at 10,000, there's no really right or wrong. I think it's really about, again, I was looking at what message and what do I want to provide. But then again, it's another it's another thing that you add onto your plate, which is really a lot. So if you're thinking about starting a Patreon, I definitely recommend doing a lot of research. But for me, starting a Patreon was, I love packing rewards. So I thought about things that I want to offer. And so I have a tier for offering rewards, which filled up right away. So now I'm thinking about opening another one. I think I just reached my 100 Patreon mark, which isn't a lot, but it's still a really nice,
Still,
beautiful,
it's
tight
something.
art
You're
community.
providing
Yeah,
value.
yeah, absolutely. And, thinking about, truthfully, when people, it's very difficult for people to pledge. It's also paying money for something. So you want to make sure you're providing the really good content. So when I go on there, I really, really give my Patreon some special stuff. So
Good.
you have to, you really, really do. And I think that starting off Patreon it's also a learning curve. And I changed a little bit of the tiers up. And a lot of people from voting polls really wanted to see some interactive Zoom stuff, Zoom conferences right now. So since we're all over the world, and I can actually record those, so I figured I'd merge the exclusive video with this live sketching, and people love live things, and I love live shows, and I love doing things on Zoom. So I think it's working out really well, and it's just again growing slowly and surely. So just keeping it moving. I recently just started it, so it's just again getting it moving and grooving. So yeah.
That's awesome. So you have now these two platforms that you're still continuously growing in. When are you gonna hire
Hmm.
someone to help you, or are you more of like I need to have hands on deck
Oh
on my
boy.
own and handle everything?
So I have people constantly emailing me, hey, I want to edit your videos. Hey, I'd love to help, but I'm just so nervous to hire someone. I don't know if it's the right time yet, but I'm sure one day I will need to. I'll need to have someone to help me package my orders, because I also have my online shop, which I'm packing all
Yeah.
my orders myself, sending everything out myself. And last launch I did of stickers completely blew up. I was not prepared for like so many orders, and I think I packed orders for 2 days straight, put aside videos, but I also made content out. So I'm always incorporating everything, if you think about it. But I think that hiring someone will eventually need to happen, but I do love doing things myself. Like I love having control over doing things myself. It was also like very nerve-wracking to even outsource stickers, because I love doing everything myself, like, making
Yeah.
control of everything that I do. So I think that eventually I will have to train someone, probably, right? Spend a whole time training someone. I feel like I'm thinking about the fact that I would have to train someone, and then I feel like I can just get it done quickly myself in thought.
Right.
But then I think someone else would make it so efficient, and it would be really cool to have a workflow with someone else as well. So
Exactly. And then
it's like a
another person's always
dilemma.
gonna, yeah, it's always gonna bring another creative like mind into the mix that will
Yeah,
help you
for
out
sure.
and make stuff easier for you.
For sure,
Um,
for sure.
so are you kind of
Always.
waiting then? Oh, go ahead.
No, no, I think that like two creative minds is always great, and different inputs from things can also be super beneficial. So it's just always like a back and forth with me. So I'm always weighing out options and seeing what could be best. So maybe that's definitely going to be an option in the future. But as of now, I think I'm able to manage everything in a great time frame. And I think as soon as it's going to tip over just a little bit, maybe I'll have to progress to some help. But it's
I
been
think
going
it'll
really
be
well for
very
now.
beneficial for you to start doing that for sure.
Yeah, we'll see how. I
So,
don't even know where I'm gonna find somebody, but
uh,
we'll see. Perhaps.
the internet is vast, and who knows? Maybe
Yes,
they'll be
yes. You can
watching
find
this.
anything at this point. You're right. You can find
Yeah.
anything at this point.
So, are you still doing commissions, or are you solely content creating? Because I know with when I had Devon on,
Mm-hmm.
I asked him the same question, and he blew up to the point where like he couldn't work on commissions anymore. So, is that something
I
that's coming
gotcha.
up on you right now?
So for a time, I did pause commissions, but I'm able to make it work now. It also depends on the, prioritizing the projects again and what brings also in more revenue to pay bills. But I think that when it comes to commissions, they're really, really great, and I love working with clients. I love portraiture. It's something that I love to do. And you know how that is. Portraits.
Yeah.
I love portrait. You guys know my art also. I love doing portraits and dog portraits, and people love their dogs. And I always, if I can help, I actually have two commissions coming up right now that were booked, so I am going to be incorporating that into videos as well, or just making it work in the schedule. It's going to work. I'm gonna make it work. I'm finishing up the big piece, and then I am still going to be doing commissions. I was doing them here and there just with a longer deadline so that I have more time to complete them. But yeah, if somebody comes with a very, you know, doable project and a custom commission that I'm able to complete with a reasonable time frame, I definitely take it. And if there's any way that I can help, as of now, I'm able to make it work. So yeah.
Oh, well, that's good to know. So
Yeah, I
now
also have on my
possibly,
website, if they're closed, I make sure people I make sure people know. And then if they ever want to book something, I have a form that they can fill out, and we go from there.
perfect. Good to know.
Mhm.
So let's go into then like what are the kind of artists that you look up to currently? I know you talked about James Gurney.
Ooh. Okay,
So
yes,
I kind of
James
want to know who's
Gurney is.
influenced your current work.
So I think that, okay, artists influence my work. I love all the old masters: Turner, Anders Zorn, Sargent, Da Vinci. First and foremost inspiration ever was Salvador Dali. I love
Oh,
his
really?
work. Yeah, first, when I was in junior high school, I was 12 years old. I love Salvador Dali. That was like my thing that I say. I love his work. I love the surreal realism of him. I loved how he was able to make something look realistic, but also completely unbelievable. That does not exist. So I really, really looked up to his work. But I also love classical work, so anything from the Renaissance. At first, I did not. I was so, I didn't really like going to the museum, but after going to Italy, I fell in love with that so much. So seeing that in person really, really inspired me. Let's see, illustrators: J.C. Leyendecker, Norman Rockwell. You guys
Classic.
know all those.
Yeah.
The classics are my favorites. And I recently started to like some impressionistic, like Monet. I love, I really respect all different styles of art, and I try to really incorporate different styles because for me, I was practicing a lot of different mediums with a lot of different styles, as you guys know if you watch my videos and know my work. So overall, yeah, those are, if off the top of my head, I would say those were my inspirations.
Sargent being one of my biggest influences when it
Sargent,
comes to oil
he's
paintings.
great, incredible.
Yeah. I like
Hans Sargent.
when when I first saw his work at the Met, it like changed everything for me. I was
Mm.
just because,
I miss
like
that
you
place
said,
so much. I miss the
yeah.
Met so, so, so much.
But you have
Ah.
is Art Basel considered is a museum or is it just like a gallery?
Yeah, so Art Basel is really big, but they don't really have like the work that you'd see at the Met or like in Italy with like
Okay.
the Renaissance paintings. It's a lot. It's more modern. It's more contemporary. It's more abstract. I still love to go. It's really great to be around people and seeing all of that. And I'm trying to actually get in this year, so we'll see. I have a few larger pieces I'm working on to see if I can get in. So I'm working on that. And then I think that I also want to make a trip back to New York to see stuff at the Met. Like I miss that place so much. Thinking about it now, I have to go back.
Yeah, it's still open and people are still going in and seeing the work. Like you said, it's just so it's such a different experience to see something on a small like screen to then seeing it in person and realizing how massive it is. Like there's
Absolutely.
paintings
Even
that I've seen that like take up all the whole wall of one section of the Met that I
it's
didn't realize were
incredible.
that
It's
yeah.
There's so much to take in, especially in the museums. There's so much to even see. You're hearing us speak about it, but when you see it and when you're there and you feel it and you absorb it, it's just an unbelievable experience. And I think that everybody should experience it. Find even if the pieces that other people speak about, find one that you can kind of like relate to and just absorb that. And it's a feeling that you can't even describe, I think, right?
Yeah, exactly. I couldn't say it better myself. Um, so what do you keep how do you keep yourself motivated and interested in your work to like keep going?
All right. So keeping motivated is I think our the number one question that I get from everybody. How do I do so much? How do I stay motivated? And I think that it really thinking about it really comes from my passion and love for what I do. I think that also how it makes me feel and how I feel while I'm creating. So that's number one motivation for me, I think. And also recently, I've been experimenting with just intuitively painting a lot. In illustration, we learned to structure everything with a sketch, with a color comp, with a finish, having everything planned out. So recently, I took like a blank piece of paper or a canvas, and the most recent painting I'm working on, which is one of my favorite pieces I've done so far, probably. I just went for it. I just created from the heart and just intuitively painted. And I think that's been motivating me intensely recently. So I think as an artist, our journey changes and things begin to mold into each other. And I think that as of now, that's what's keeping me motivated. So it's just a combination of everything. And number one, I guess the feeling of creating and just, I don't
Yeah.
know. If you're an artist, you know what I'm saying. It's very hard to describe. It's more of something that comes from within and it's very special. And when you're able to bring something to life in art form is very beautiful to me. So I just continue to do that. And that's a very, very big motivation.
So I know because you're doing constant work like that, there's a such thing as like burnout when we're like an artist working all day. Do you get that?
No. I
Wow.
don't. I don't really burn out. I feel like I need to eat. I like my body needs to eat. That's so funny because I sometimes I forget to eat. So I think that
Same.
this is when I have to like pause and go do something else. But overall, like burnout, it's more of kind of like a feeling of maybe I should step away from this for a moment and come back to it. Um, and maybe, a lot of people ask about art block and feeling stuck and what you do when you feel stuck. And for me, what really, really helps, and if rarely, I don't really remember the last time that happened, but rarely when that happens, I just pick up a pencil and I just get it moving. I just begin because you have no idea. You're going to surprise yourself. As soon as you start, just do something personal. Maybe doodle something that you're feeling, something that I'm feeling. If I'm ever feeling stuck and I'm drawing that, it ends up molding into something else and then I don't feel stuck anymore. So it's really good to just start. It sounds funny, just start, but
Yeah.
it's true to just get a pencil, get your favorite art supply, see what's personal for you, what makes you feel good and what art supply you like. And maybe you like blue and you just always want to use blue. So just take blue and then create and just start getting that moving on the paper. And that really, really helps in burnout situations, I think. And also just take a break, maybe step out to the balcony, get some fresh air, read a book, cook. For me, sometimes I just go cook for a few hours, maybe just get some meals going, and then I come back and work. And yeah.
Yeah, I
So,
think that's great advice in that sense where it's like if you're feeling like that you're not going anywhere with that piece, go do something else. A big
yeah.
hobby of mine that I recently got into was street photography. So with the
Yeah,
camera that
that's
like with the camera that I'm recording now, yeah, it's also great for stuff like that. You get a small lens and you just walk around your city or your town,
absolutely.
and just grab it into like embrace yourself in that environment and capture what you see, because first and foremost you're like training your brain with composition, lighting, getting the
Absolutely.
best image out there, and it's just a great like practice. Although it is a hobby and you're just trying to get away from maybe like working on your art, it's still another great practice to keep your brain moving and working, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's really great. And I see myself doing that as well. It could be an art form, but something completely different, not painting or drawing, photography. I also love embroidery and doing
Ooh.
things like little sculptures. I started to actually experiment with air dry clay. No one knows. I haven't really done it on video or anything, but I'm thinking of doing a video with some clay experimentation. I was also doing like paintings on leather and backpacks and shoes and stuff like that. So just doing something a little bit different can get you out of that feeling if you're ever feeling it. So yeah, I think that's really great advice as well. And I'm gonna have to try some photography. I've been really eyeing some cameras, so hopefully that I can add that into like a little hobby as well.
Yeah, I can never recommend it enough how like
Yeah,
photography is just another great hobby to do. Like
yeah,
and then another like
absolutely.
impulse buy that you kind of inspired me to do was the skateboarding.
Oh
The
yeah,
to paint on a deck. I
there
went
you
to a
go.
Blick and saw one last like deck like
Oh
just
really? They have them
plain.
there? Oh,
Yeah, the one in it's not my town, but the closest Blick to me. I went to like get supplies with a friend or whatever, and then they had a deck like just wood, like fresh in like
yep.
wrapping
It was
on
an
sale for
amazing
like 20
project.
bucks. Yeah, it was like 20
Go
bucks, and
for
I'm
it.
like, eventually I'll do something on it. So I still have to think of an idea for that, but
Yeah, you
yeah,
just
like you
gotta go
said,
for
you
it. You
just
just gotta like
gotta
open it and create on it. Try that. You might
yeah,
even
you just
surprise.
gotta
Yeah,
branch
honestly.
out and do stuff that you wouldn't really do, and then that's where you get the next best idea, for
Yep,
sure.
absolutely.
So then in the
But
spirit
number
of
one
talking
is
about,
just
oh,
starting, like
yeah,
beginning and just beginning to do it, then it happens. So,
yes.
yep.
So then in the spirit of talking about work, then do you critique your own work, or do you like show it to other people before you post?
So I always love to take a step back and critique my own work as if I'm critiquing someone else's work. For example, if I were a student and I'm just kind of critiquing that. So I like to do that. I also always reach out to old professors and teachers and show them my work if I need to, further help. I love keeping in touch relationships with them, and I think they really played an important role in my life. So I like to stay in touch and ask if I need help, and they're always glad to give me some feedback, some critiques. And I'm very close with my family, so they're always seeing my work and always giving me honest feedback, brutal honest feedback if I need. And I think that that really helps as well. And yeah, I think I don't mind showing people, and I sometimes if I'm ever like stuck on an idea, I can show it to a family member. Usually it's my family or reaching out to professors. So yeah,
Yeah, it's
and a
definitely
combination of
important. Yeah, even though it's brutal honesty, I think that's the best kind of critique because you don't
oh
want
yeah,
someone just telling you how good the piece is, knowing that there's something that could be fixed. You know,
oh yeah. I have
so
a
I always
story
go
about
with
that.
that.
My first when I was in junior high school for art, that's sixth grade, so I was about 11 years old, right? Sixth grade is 11, around there. and I created this drawing. We had a project, and it was to do, I think, something also in a surreal style, or maybe we were working on. Anyway. The point of story is we're working on a project, and I come to show my teacher, and we'd have like individual critiques. We would come to her desk, and she would look at our work, and then we were sent away. And she looked at my work and said that it was terrible. Like, she completely ripped it apart. Not like
Ooh.
ripped it physically, but she said
No,
everything
I
that
get
you
it.
could say poor about it.
Yeah.
And I went back to my desk and I literally cried. I actually physically cried. And I think ever since then, it really was the best. Like, it was the best advice because I was able to I noticed my mistake. I knew she was right. And I just had to get myself together, fix it. And our art, it's a sensitive moment because we put our heart and soul into it. And then when someone rips it apart, you just wanna crawl into a hole, you know.
Just want to die, it's just
But
like,
the
oh
most
man.
important thing is to just really, stay determined on looking at it from a different perspective, saying, okay, this person has their feedback. Let me see what I can do about it to make it better. And then that ended up working. And in college, also a lot of brutal honesty, which is the best way to learn because that helps you see it. Because sometimes as an artist, when you're learning, you don't really see it. And when somebody points it out, it's a really great. It also matters how you point it out, right? The way that you say it.
Yeah.
So just having that awareness is very important.
Yeah, for sure. You definitely want to just put your ego aside when that's the case
Of
because
course.
you got to
Number one.
understand that it's not for you to take it personally, but it's just another
Sure.
way for you to improve your work. I have one story actually from college that I always go back to because to this day like I still laugh at it, but at the time it like killed me.
Oh,
But
yeah. Let's hear
coming
it.
yeah, so coming from a high school of like this not a public school with no art like influences or anything, I I was one of the best ones there from what everybody was saying. So
Uh-huh.
my ego was a little high at the
Yeah.
time. So
Yeah.
FIT being the one art school I applied to and getting into, I was like, okay, this is gonna be a piece of cake. I'll be fine. First class that I have is with Carlos Aponte, and I have the likes of like Craig, Devon, and all those people like in that class, and I see what the kind of work they're pushing out, and realizing that there was high schools dedicated to art. So
Yes.
that's an ego check on its own. So I'm
Yep.
in. So I go through school with Carlos on that first semester, and I he makes us do one the first day he makes us do one piece of like fashion illustration of the model you draw from
Mm-hmm.
life and everything,
Yes.
and then he makes us do the final one at the end of the semester, like the same thing, the
Uh-huh.
same
Uh-huh.
pose, all of
To see
that.
how you progress.
Exactly, to see how we progressed. And during the critique in front of the whole class, he goes, look at this, Beauty and the Beast, the beast referring to my first original drawing. So
Oh boy.
so I'm just like, ow. But then I laugh it off because it's true. I
Yeah.
mean, like, you don't see that at the moment up until you've improved your work? So, like,
Absolutely.
Carlos, if you ever listen to this, I want to thank you so much because
Yeah,
that's
thank you
one
to
of the
all the
main reasons I've
teachers
improved.
who really, really critiqued us. And everyone has their teacher that has pushed them to an unbelievable, like, level. And we all have that person. And everybody, every successful person also has a person that they looked up to and that has helped them and pushed them. So I think let's take a moment to shout out those people because without
For
you
sure.
guys, we wouldn't be who we are today.
Yeah. I
And as
mean,
artists here, we're very sentimental, so
yeah. Yeah, it really matters the kind of people that you surround yourself with. And I'm
yeah,
thankful to have like my group of friends that are all fellow artists as well, and we just constantly push each other to the best of our abilities to be the best person that we can. And I think like when you
amazing.
have that kind of
That's
support group
amazing.
around you, it's always going to be a great time.
That's amazing. That's really,
Yeah.
really great.
So let's
Oh.
talk about so when you started, obviously with the YouTube and everything when you moved to Miami, um what kind of jobs aside from art were you working at the time of it, like starting your YouTube to like pay for the bills? Like what were you doing?
So as a start of YouTube, I was also holding some online Zoom classes for younger kids. I have a passion. I love working with younger kids, so I was teaching them as well. So I was doing that. That was like my own like I said, I was doing dance, so I knew a lot of parents
Yeah.
and kids, so that's how I was able to form the classes. And I was doing also launched in the pandemic, I launched this thing called Bond and Paint, where you get together online and I, again, threw out positive vibes of getting people and families. Basically, they purchase a one ticket for the household and they get to create with all of their family members since that was, everybody was stuck at home. So that's what I was doing with work based on that and also commissions. And before that, I was again professionally ballroom dancing, so I was doing that and then teaching younger kids that as well. So that
So that was
was
like your
that.
day job. Did you never have like retail
I
like
never had a
jobs or anything?
never in my life. No,
Wow.
never ever.
Lucky
I
you,
never
man.
worked. I've never, and this is crazy to say, now that I think about it, I have never worked a retail job. I've never worked a 9 to 5 for somebody, yeah, for a big company.
That's
No.
another kind of job that kind of tests your ego a little bit too.
Yes, yes,
Dealing with those kind of customers.
yes,
Um, but
yes.
that's really good to know. That's something I didn't know about you, and I wanted to,
Yes, that's something
just
many people don't know. Yeah.
yeah, because people just assume that like you're you're just an artist. You don't have like things to pay for, and
Oh,
they think
yes.
that you're just kind of paying it with your art. But when you're starting out, you need that day job to kind of like plant your
Yeah,
feet a
for
little.
sure, for sure, for sure. You have to, I
Yeah,
was also grabbing, I had a lot of family friends on Facebook who needed logo work and they needed portraits, they needed, chalkboard art where you just basically do lettering. So I was grabbing things, everything that I could and that I had time for. I was taking that opportunity and it was really important to do that because it also helped me learn. So definitely I agree with you. If you can take the opportunity and to really start yourself off is really important. Yep.
so I guess that kind of also answers my question of like why were you drawn to this career instead of like a job that might offer you more security and stability?
I guess it goes back to believing that I can and that I'm passionate about creating and just making sure that I get it out into the world. I think it comes really down to my passion and not giving up. And that's probably the fastest, shortest, sweetest way I can put it.
Yeah,
It comes down to my passion and really just what I love to do, focusing on that and ways that I can branch out of
yeah.
that and create revenue. So
That's just something that comes with this kind of career path is risk. You have, but if you
risk is
believe in your,
always there.
yeah, if you believe in
Yeah,
yourself and know that you could achieve what your goal is, then the risk becomes very minimal. And
correct.
I think the goal is to always do something that you love, so it doesn't feel like a job, and you can
Absolutely.
just kind of go to it every day and enjoy it. You don't want to work a job that you hate for the rest of your life.
That's funny you say that because I always say that in my videos as well. A lot of people, how do you what should I draw? Draw what you love. What do you love?
Yeah,
If you love drawing flowers, draw flowers. If you love drawing letters, if you love letter making typography, draw letters. I used to love the first thing that I remember drawing when I was little. I love drawing letters. I love drawing different kind of like graffiti things. That's kind of like where it started for me and like little cartoons. So I think it's really important. Also look back at what you drew when you were younger because when we're little and when we're kids, which is also a really big reason why working with kids is incredible, is that you don't think about what someone's gonna think. You don't care. You're just going for it because you love it. You're excited and you have a crayon and you feel like the most powerful child
yeah,
in the world. So
yeah,
just focusing in on what you love, and also there's many aspects coming into how to do it and the right way to do it, but it's all trial and error and research and staying true to yourself. And yeah, that's what I always like. Every day I step back and I'm like, am I staying true to myself? And is this something that I love? And is this something that I want to put out into the world as a positive message?
Yeah, I think what a lot of people fall into these days is they're trying to appease the world or like their
Mm-hmm.
followers to what
Mm-hmm.
they're doing. Like
Mm-hmm.
they won't necessarily do what they love, but they're just kind of doing stuff that they think that will get more likes. And I think that's just the
Sure.
wrong way to go about it, you know, like they because people they see that in your work if you enjoy it or not. And
Sure. Everything
I feel
communicates
yeah,
immediately. It's as soon as you put that energy out, it communicates immediately. So I definitely agree with you. When you are drawing and painting something that you love and creating something that you love, whether you're sculpting, photography, anything, anything in the world, I think it communicates immediately if it's something that you love and something that you are just super excited about.
yeah, exactly. And then the people will follow, you know, as long as you're doing what you actually enjoy, it shows
Yep.
in your work and the people will follow. I mean, it happened with you with the niche that you were able to fall into, you know?
Yep. And it also happened, now that you mention it, it really, YouTube took off, and then Instagram took off right after when I started to do my fruit head series. I started to think about projects that I really pushed myself in art school to do, which was like a You Are What You Eat series. I'm not sure if you've seen it, but if you guys have
Yeah, yeah,
seen it,
definitely. Yeah.
it was like this interesting, I don't know, it was something that I completely have never done before. And then I started to pull that together to see how I can make a cohesive series body of work. And then I made the fruit heads. I posted every single day the process and the finished piece, and people were like excited to see them. They were relating to them, and to this day, I have shipments going out to Switzerland, South Africa, and Norway,
Wow.
all these places. It's
So
really incredible.
how big were they if you were posting them literally every day? Like,
So I was doing, and ready for this, October instead of Inktober, I did one acrylic painting per day,
oh
8 by
my
10
gosh.
on illustration board with acrylic. Planning them out actually, because I had to make a list of all the fruits. I had to make sure I'm not repeating different styles because I unified the earrings with the expressions and the colors because I have a flat colored background, and then I
Yeah.
had the expressive faces. So combined like fruits and people. So yeah, it was crazy. It was
And how long were they taking you each day?
let's see. As I was first starting out, 7 hours each.
Ouch.
And as I
Okay.
was going at towards the end, it was like a 3 hour, like cranking them out. 3 hours, painting
Yeah.
finished.
And
And then I
that's
scanned them, uploaded, and again with Instagram algorithm, you have to post at 12, so I was like pressured to finish and upload, but it really, 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 really did great, and it was also like a time management lesson and challenge for me as well. So that was a lot of people ask what was my favorite challenge that I set, and I really recommend setting challenges as an artist because it helps you also stay motivated and it cranks up those skills, and you will surprise yourself on what you can
yeah.
actually achieve when you set your mind to it. So I think that was the most, to this day, greatest challenge that I learned the most, that has helped me the most, and also just brought even a little art community together, and people were able to relate, and people say it made them smile. So that's, it all comes
It
together,
comes full
and
circle, yeah.
it comes full, exactly, that's what I'm trying to say. It comes full circle, and once it does, it's a very, very special feeling. It's very
And it's
great.
super fulfilling, I bet.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, that's another thing too, is just you start off with the 7 hours taking that long, but then when you're doing practices all day, every day, the efficiency comes along. So for people that are
Yep.
always wondering like, oh, well, how are you working this fast? It's because it comes with time. It comes with practice,
Sure, sure,
you know?
absolutely. I do work very quickly. Personally, I think that my workflow is very quick, but that's why I started a giant piece to try to learn to slow down and do like more in a bigger space, in a bigger I guess surface.
Yeah.
And I think that as soon as you are cranking in those time, the time to do what you're doing, you begin to create a faster workflow for yourself. So if
Exactly.
everybody's asking me, how do you work so fast? How do you do this so quickly? How do you capture an urban sketch scene? I think that practicing it so much, you know, you're not dealing with the other obstacles like learning about the medium or how to set up or how to start something. You've already learned, you've already felt that feeling and you know what to expect. So that's where the workflow begins to just come and easily go, you know?
Yeah.
So
That
yeah, that's
reminds me of
definitely a
these
good point.
that reminds me of these two pieces that I got commissioned by a client that I never really worked that big. I think the biggest I've ever worked would be like 18 by 24, but I got
Mm-hmm.
commissioned for two 24 by
Uh-huh.
36 paintings
There you
of,
go. And then you
yeah,
gotta, you see, when things like that come at you, you have to, you're forced to be challenged, and then
yeah,
you'll see how it even helps you in the long run. So,
exactly. Because then it's a whole different workflow when you're working that big. Because usually when
yep,
you're working small, you're so worried about the details and everything of people being
yep,
up close. With a big painting, you really it's all broad strokes because people are gonna be looking at that from farther away, and it's gonna say the same. It's gonna give out the same message as if you were like nitpicking and detailing everything so close. You know.
yep, absolutely.
So let's talk about like your accomplishments. Like, what do you wish to accomplish with your art?
Ooh, accomplish. So, I really, again, want to, when people look at my work, I just want them to feel like warm and positive. So that's something that I always try to implement in my work. And it's not something that I actually try to implement, it's something that just comes out when I'm creating intuitively, which is something that I've been practicing recently and working on. So I think that in that sense, in the emotional sense, that's what I'm trying to achieve. And just happiness and positivity and warmth and sun and smiles. So that's something that I personally want to put out. And when it comes to illustration, I would really love to take it to another level and perhaps illustrate a children's book. And that's something that I'm really working on to do as well as like a next step to expand a little bit. So that's something that I'm looking into, and we'll see with thinking about agents and whatnot. So that's something that I
Yeah.
would want to do as well.
And I think doing videos on like the process of I know like difficult to do with like when you're working with a publisher, they don't want you showing like the sketches and everything. But
Sure.
maybe like a book dummy you could do and like show people how much work actually takes to create a
Sure.
children's book because
Yeah,
I
children's books
remember
are
in
a lot of
college,
work. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
in college we had that children's book class and it took us a whole year just to like get through it. Like first semester was just like getting the idea, sketching it out, and then
Yeah,
the
it's a
second one
lot of
was
work. So it would be
yeah,
really
implementing it.
interesting to actually see it come to life. Um, but yeah, I think that children's books, or maybe I would love, a lot of people are requesting like my sketchbooks in a book, like art of Jess
Oh, like an
Karp.
art
So
book. Yeah.
yeah, like an art of book. So perhaps that's something that I would look into doing as well. And I just have to think about, again, that's a lot to put together. So that would
Yeah.
be another something in the future for sure. And
When
maybe
you
even
actually
some
have help.
tutorial books. Huh?
When you
What
actually
was
have
that?
someone helping in the studio.
Yes, when I have four assistants because I'm doing
Yeah.
10 different things at once. Yeah, so I think that that would be really cool. A lot of people also requesting some tutorial books and things like with tips. So that would be something that I would also want to put out into the world. So that's some little things that I'm thinking about here and there for sure.
Awesome. So I think we kind of covered the like your other interests aside from art that you're exploring and how you're trying to get into photography as well. Is there anything else that we missed that you would like to talk about?
So definitely photography, definitely coming, touching back into sculpting and just trying to do some things like 3D. And let's see, I think that's pretty much it. And just
Yeah.
tapping back into dance and just lots of like movement because as artists, we're always stagnant into one pose. We're in one position.
Yeah.
And that's why I got like a standing desk so I'm able to stand
Me
and
too.
sit.
Which one did you
Yeah, it's
get?
the best investment. I love it. I have the one from IKEA. I love IKEA. It's a great place. I have the biggest one from IKEA. So I think it's really great for an artist if you're always in
Yeah.
one position. And I have that set up so that if I'm doing computer work, I can stand. If I'm packing, I can stand. And if I want to draw, I can also sit. So it's really great to be able to adjust it.
Yeah, I got the one from Uplift Desk,
Oh, yeah?
and it's like all automated and everything. You can set
Oh,
like
okay.
different heights, and
Yeah, I
it
love
came with a
it.
hammock actually, so
A
I could like
hammock?
hook. Yeah, I could hook a hammock on below and just sleep if I
Oh,
wanted to, or just kind of relax in between like
oh.
sessions.
I don't have a
Um,
hammock. I gotta get me one of those.
yeah,
Then I won't get
yeah,
anything
yeah.
done.
And like again, like you said, it's like the best investment that I've ever made for like in
Yes.
an artistic sense, especially as a
Yes.
digital artist. When you're working
Yes.
on a desk all day, you're not really necessarily painting. It's so important. Like I'm doing that very often. Like just maybe like in the morning, I'll be sitting, and then afternoon, I'm just standing and just switching it up a little bit, because the back for an artist is so precious because
Yes.
we,
It's
we
super,
people think
super
that, yeah,
important.
like people think we don't get injured doing artwork, but
Well,
that's,
there's hand
you don't want to.
injuries, there's
Yeah,
back injuries. But actually, I think that having the standing desk is really great. And that's another thing where I'm trying to practice like movement. So, like, you guys don't see in the videos, I started to show in my studio vlogs, but I have to dance, like I'm dancing as I'm drawing, and it's like part of the process. And I know other artists do that as well. Some artists like sing while they're drawing because it's just what it's part of the creative process.
yeah,
And as you know, we're always sitting and being in one spot, so it's really important to get movement going into your body if we're thinking about health. And that's, I guess, another thing that I'm starting to really, really, really do and make it a habit, because it's very easy to get caught up in the day of getting things, done, and without
yeah, yeah,
working on your body of movement. And yeah, that's definitely one big, big thing.
yeah. Definitely always take breaks while you're doing like hours of work. Your
Yes,
body
they
needs
say you
it.
have to like walk around, take a after every 20 minutes, they say you have to take a walk so
Yeah,
that you're not stuck, but that's difficult.
yeah. I mean, that's why we get back problems as artists.
Yeah.
So now let's get into like something even more. So like, what is success to you?
Okay, that's a question.
It's
That's a
a
deep
heavy one, I
question
know.
there. That's a deep question. What is success to me? Success. Wow, I don't know. I have to think about that. Give me a
Yeah,
second
it's
here.
a big one. Like I want to know, like, do you feel like you've reached it, or what's the future looking like for you? Like what are your plans for the future as an artist?
So I think that when it comes to success, I don't think that I wouldn't say that I have reached it, because I think that it's a consistent flow that goes on for me, that I constantly just being alive is a success for me. Like being able to do what I do is a success. And just being grateful for what just continuing to practice gratitude is success for me, for me personally. And the fact that I can reach people from around the world, I feel I have reached a success in that sense, because I've always wanted to spread the creativity. So in that sense, I feel like I've reached it. But in the long run, I feel that, we don't know what the future holds. So I think there's more coming, and it's growing and growing every day. And I'm taking it one day at a time. So I think success is just, for me, it's just being able to help others and show my love and for what I do, and showing people that it is possible. And I think that's just the way that I'd like to define it at the moment. I'm sure it's going to change over time. Of
Yeah,
course, everything changes. So I think, yeah, it's a difficult
yeah. I
question
mean,
to answer, because
it,
it's a
yeah, I
lot of
know.
things come into hand with it. But
It's a
I'd
lot of
love
moving
to,
parts for sure.
yeah, I'd love to reach more people, help more people, and spread more positivity. So the more people I can reach and help, the better for me, especially with art.
Yeah. And this could be like a time capsule in itself where you could see what your goals
Absolutely.
were during this time.
Yep, that's why
And
it's
you
so
could,
great that
yeah,
you're bringing all artists together and recording this as well. So this is we're gonna look back at this in 20 years, and
yeah, who
see.
knows where we'll be, you know?
And next time you're gonna be on my channel, we're gonna be interviewing you.
Can't wait for that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
um,
I think it's really great to just look back at it as well.
yeah, for sure. Cause I feel like as artists, we're constantly just focusing on the craft itself that we're not looking back and congratulating ourselves for the steps that we've gone through, you know? Like we will reach a step in our achievements in like our bucket list, but then we're always like, all right, so what's next? You know?
There's always
There's
a
always
higher
something more.
ground you can go.
Yeah,
Exactly. There's always something that you can push yourself to do even more. And I think it's just appreciating and like taking a step back and looking at how far you've come, even if it's not
exactly.
far, even if you don't think it's that far. It's really important to take a step back and look at what you achieved and how you achieved it and just being appreciative of that. So,
Yeah, it's all very important for sure. Like just take a step back and actually pat yourself in the back at where you're at the moment, you know?
yeah, sometimes it's hard. It's you get caught up and it's yeah, difficult.
Yeah. Do you have any regrets?
No, no regrets.
No. Good. That's
I
why
don't
I
think
just
we
wanted
should
to make
regret
sure.
anything.
Yeah. Even like with mistakes, there's don't take it as like a hit to the gut, more of just like another learning thing because without
Yeah,
mistakes there's no room for you to grow because you just don't know,
you
you
got
know?
it. You got that right.
Yeah. So all right, so then one of the
I
final questions. Oh,
I'm a firm believer of everything happens for a reason,
for
everything
sure.
has its purpose and everything is connected. So, I don't think there's a reason to regret because the things that happen all happen to come into one, consistent ball of surprise. So, even if it's something negative, it always has its purpose and I think that even if we have, if we have a moment where we feel like we have to regret something, it's really great to look back and understand that it has its purpose and the next journey and the next step comes after and it's all incredible. And life is just beautiful. So you just got to love
Yeah,
it all.
for sure. And yeah, I couldn't put it better myself. So just then the final question with like art wise, I'd love to give you, or
Oh, I
ask
don't
you
want it to
to.
be over.
Don't worry, I still have a little one more last question that'll be fun for you,
Sure.
um, after this one. So, what kind of advice for people seeking a career in illustration or YouTube can you give to them?
Okay, so my advice, I have different, I guess, advice for those three things like art and YouTube and illustration, I think in general, but one of my biggest, I guess to sum it up in one big piece of advice is to number one, put in the time and really stay dedicated because that's what's going to set you forth. And staying hardworking and working smart is number one. And number two, staying true to yourself, doing what you love is really, really great advice. And as soon as I believe family members would always say that, and really hearing that makes you understand that that is super important. And number three, I would say to just never give up. Like, just never give up. No matter what, you gotta come back up. If something happens that, if someone says something negative or something, anything can happen in life. You just never, ever, ever give up. And believing that you can achieve something, believing in yourself, will set you it's going to already put you 100 steps forward because of the fact that you believe. And yeah,
Yeah,
that's my advice.
awesome. So, anybody listening, that's great advice to have.
Yeah,
Again,
I think
couldn't
it's
have
great
said it
advice
better.
for anything in life,
Yeah,
I think. So,
yeah, it doesn't necessarily even have to be art. It's just anything that you're interested in and want to make a career out of it. follow those things and you can achieve it. You just have to put in that dedication. You got to put in the time and you will get there.
Excellent.
Okay.
Perfect.
So now it's a little bit more of a fun topic. So
We
I kind of
got
want
deep
to
here,
just
guys. We have some deep,
yeah,
deep
we
concepts
got
going
real
here.
deep. So I wanted just to then any movie recommendations or recent ones that you've seen?
Ooh, movies. Oh
Yeah.
boy. So I recently watched the movies about how McDonald's happened. I'm not sure if you watched it.
Yeah, the it's called The Founder, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Really liked that one. That was interesting. Really, really great for business, I think, and never giving up, that concept.
Yeah.
Uh, let's see. I love Guardians of the Galaxy as like a feel-good movie. Love that
For
movie. I
sure.
feel
For
like I
sure.
could watch that over and over. Any comedies I think that exist, I love. The classic love movies I also love. Like Titanic, I love that movie. I love that movie.
I
And
used to be really into romantic comedies when I was younger.
yeah, I think they're
Yeah, it was like the
great.
mix of both.
I had a time where I was really scared of like scary movies, but then I started watching them, and some friends like opened up my mind to it, and it was very interesting to see just camera shots and just
Oh
psychologically
yeah.
how it, but now like a lot of those things are a bit like some things get very negative, and I just try to put positive things into my life, and I structure it that way. So I'm just any movie, I guess, that has comedy now. I don't really get to watch too many movies, and I feel like movie theaters aren't a thing right now. But
Well, they're bouncing back finally.
yeah,
Here in New
yeah,
York,
everything's
we're
open
able to
here
go
too.
back. Yeah.
Yeah, everything's open down here too. So yeah, comedies, and let's see, off the top of my head, I'm not really able to think, but those were the recent ones that I've watched. And I started to watch The New Girl on Netflix, and it's just so funny. I think it's like a version of Friends and just a
Yeah,
feel
during the
good humor
pandemic,
show.
I watched that show and I was just giving it a chance because I've heard it was like good, and
It's
I was
good.
like, yeah, like I'm not into like sitcomies kind of things, but that one, the writing for that is
It was
so good.
good. It was
It
funny.
is
It
so
was
funny.
funny too. Yeah, I'm still not
Yeah,
finished with
yeah.
it. I just sometimes I put it on while I draw or pack orders and stuff like that. So it's
Oh yeah,
funny.
it's bittersweet when it ends, but it's still
Yeah.
like a fun ride the whole
I
time.
don't want it to be over. That's why I like stretching it out.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I recently watched Wrath of Man, which is the new Guy Ritchie movie, and
No, you're gonna have to give me a list so I can
oh
watch
yeah,
some good
yeah.
movies.
There's a lot of good stuff out right now.
Yeah.
But like that one, I thought it was just gonna be some like regular like action movie with like okay screenwriting and everything, but it ended up surprising me a lot. It was so good action wise. The shot for shot was really awesome. The score of the movie, it was like a nice surprise and
All
like
right, I'm
really
gonna have
like
to check it
refreshing.
out. You hear that,
Definitely, it's
guys? If you haven't watched, that's the movie to watch.
yeah, it's out right now in theaters so far, so definitely check that out.
Yeah, I've
And
been.
then
Go ahead, go ahead.
oh, and then like I I've been seeing the new Corello movie that's gonna be coming out soon that I'm really
Yeah,
interested
I'm
in.
so out of the loop with that, so I'm gonna have to check
Oh
them out.
man,
You're gonna have
yeah.
to send me a
What
list.
what
I
I
trust
yeah
your
will
opinion. I know you're really into like great
definitely
movies.
yeah.
By
So
the way, guys,
I'll give you a
Albert
list.
does a lot of like fan art, and he does a lot of
Like
really
movie
great,
posters and stuff like
yeah,
that. Like
movie posters. He's really, really loves doing that, so you guys should check it out. And he's gonna you can reach out to him. He could give some great movie suggestions. He's very passionate
yeah,
about that, I
yeah.
think so.
Yeah, yeah. Like it's a whole community on its own. Like the alternative
Yeah.
movie poster community. It
Yeah.
I got into it during college. It was just something that I was like looking into because I started seeing like Drew Struzan. Like I was introduced to that by Craig, and I was
Oh,
just like, why aren't movie posters illustrated anymore? Like I
I
wanted
know. That's the
to know
best. I
why.
love Drew
Yeah.
Struzan. He's great.
So then I learned more about like that community, like Mondo, Bottleneck Gallery, and all these kind of places. And there's like and Poster Spy.
Yep.
There's like
Poster Spy.
people all over the world just creating amazing like movie posters and everything, and kind of like creating their own like image of what they thought the movie should look like to portray it. And man, like that just kind of skyrocketed my interest in like a select kind of niche of illustration. That's kind of why this all kind of started with the podcast and everything, and why I ask about movies, because I think movies play into a lot of what people's do in their artwork, because
Yep.
that in itself
Yep.
is an art form that just always gives inspiration
Definitely.
to me. I always have like, even if it's a movie that I've seen 1,000 times, I'll put it on while I'm working, just because I want to listen to the screenplay, or just like I
There you
want to see
go.
shots while
That's
I'm
really
working and
interesting.
just get inspired.
That's really interesting. Actually, a lot of and for all of, my fans as well, a lot of people ask like where my inspirations come from, and for me personally, it's from my surroundings and just my feelings and things that happen. And for other artists, it could be movies. For Albert, it's
Yeah,
movies. So it's really great to show variety, and I'm really glad we're here talking because a lot of inspirations come from many different things. It can come from books. I know a girl who really loves doing book covers because she reads like 20 books a month and she just doesn't stop reading. And inspirations all around us. So it's really great to see the variety. So again, it's what personally you're drawn to and what you love. And I think that whether it's movies, books, it's definitely there to inspire you.
yeah, for sure. I can't thank movies enough for inspiring me to do all the
There you
work that
go.
I'm
There you
currently
go.
doing. Yeah. Is there a movie that you could watch like over and over again and never get tired of?
Uh, I th- Off the top of my head, I have to say Guardians of the Galaxy because I think that movie is just such a feel good movie, and I love Groot. Like seeing Groot,
Yeah,
I think I can watch him like all day long, like
yeah,
literally.
especially when he becomes a baby, right?
The baby, yes, the
Yeah,
baby Groot
yeah,
is the best. Yeah, I think that's just the first off the top of my head
yeah,
as of
and
right
then it's
now.
like a great soundtrack too. Like I have the actual like
Oh
playlist
yeah, yeah,
constantly
yeah.
playing.
I
You know,
love that playlist. Yep.
let's see, what famous person would you like to get to know?
Ooh, that's a good question. Famous person I'd like to get to know. Let's see. I would like to get to know James Jean. I'd like to get
Ooh,
to know what what his journey was like more in
yeah,
depth and just the kind of person he is and how he works because he does also work a lot and puts a lot of time into his work. And I love that he's so driven and just doesn't stop. Like, he does not stop.
I
So I
know.
connect with that in that sense. So I think I would definitely like to just have a conversation with him. If you're listening for some reason, James, we can be friends, hopefully.
Yeah, and
um,
maybe come on to this podcast. That's like a dream
yeah,
of mine too.
that
Eventually,
would be incredible. That would be incredible. He
Yeah.
will. He'll be here. You got to make it a reality. You got to believe
This will
it,
be
and
a
it's going to
timestamp.
happen.
Yeah, we gotta wish for it, and it'll happen.
And as soon as it happens, you can quote back to our conversation
Yeah,
and say, May
yeah, we did it.
what's
Yeah,
today? May 2021.
yeah,
We
yeah.
made it a thing. So yeah.
All right, so I got everything that I needed for the podcast, and I think what we said was very informative. I really want
Absolutely.
to thank you for coming on. It was a honestly one of the best pleasures to have you on and get to know what you're doing with your YouTube and your Patreon. And I'm excited to see what the future holds for you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. It was incredible. I hope we can do more of these and I really really enjoyed it. I've always actually wanted to start a podcast as well and I think it's really great to connect with other artists as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's really amazing that you started this and for everybody who's listening, I think that you know, Albert started a podcast. That's what he was passionate about. Just doing what you love and connect with people, find helpful tips is something that's really, really great.
Yeah, and that's what this podcast will always was the initial plan for, was to listen to what artists are doing now, the way that they work, and what kind of tips that they can give to aspiring artists. Was a podcast meant for that, to have
Awesome.
people that are coming up in the art industry and don't know what to do, you know.
Yep,
So
that's
yeah, that's
awesome.
kind of the dream for this. But
I
yeah,
love it. I love it.
yeah, thanks again for coming on, and I would love to have you back on.
Yep, anytime. Thank you so much
All
for
right,
having me.
signing off, guys. Bye bye.
Bye.